Are you thinking about creating your own manga and webtoons? I'm gonna be real with you, it's not easy, but here are some of the things that I wish I knew when I was definitely starting out. So you guys don't know who I am, I'm Brandon Chen. I'm a writer-producer for the manga, webtoon, anime space. I run the studio Inspired Productions that produces the series that I come up with in my head, and we work with the major publishers all around the world, Webtoon, Tapas, Manta, Voice Me, etc. more, to create awesome original series, and the successful ones we try to take to animation. And today's video is going to be all about the main tips that I would really give people who are definitely starting out in the anime, manga, webtoon space as creators. And this educational video in particular is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, but more on them later. The first piece of advice I'm going to give is on story and art. In my opinion, art is what attracts readers, story is what keeps them. You know, some people might say don't judge a book by its cover, but in my opinion, everyone judges a book by its cover. So I think that if you're getting into the anime, manga, webtoon space, really learn about what art styles are the most appealing to people, whether it's within your genre, within your country. Think about the meta, think about your consumers and who they are and what they like, and really try to tailor your art style, what art style that you're working with for the projects with the most art style that people like. Of course, there are some areas where you might want to be different and that kind of stuff, but obviously the more that you stray from the meta, the more likely that there is a risk that people might not enjoy that. So take that in mind. And then obviously story is what retains people. Art is great to look at, but I think that what keeps people interested in reading more and more and more and reading those chapters over, you know, dozens of weeks or maybe even years, especially for serialized manga and webtoons that are longer, it's interesting characters and interesting story, right? And so I think that really the writing comes into the play of in terms of like retaining those readers. But of course, it's hard to read a series that has really good writing but not enjoyable art to look at. At that point, I might as well just read a novel, because then I can just imagine something better to look at. But at the same time, on the flip side, you know, something that has really strong art but no substance in terms of writing is also really hard to read, I think, because then you're just looking at pictures and you're like, oh man, this is like really frustrating to read. I've had a lot of series that I've checked out, of course, that have that. So definitely would recommend like really thinking about those two aspects and how you can balance and strengthen, obviously, those two elements of your projects. The next piece of advice I would really give is on finishing. Some people would say that you really want to focus on quality. I think that when you're starting off in your career, whether that's creating videos, doing manga, writing a novel, anything that's creative, I really recommend learning how to finish the project before learning how to perfect it. I think that putting in reps is how you learn how to do something really well, not necessarily the first time trying to create like the world's best manga. I think that most people, including the mangaka that you really look up to, have failed many, many times before they were able to land the manga or project that you know them for. So it's okay to know that your first project is probably not going to be a masterpiece. That's totally fine. I think that the person who spends the time to create 10 manga chapters in the same amount of time that it would take for someone to try to create a perfect first chapter, that person who created the 10 manga chapters is going to learn a lot more than that person who really focused on creating the one. And ultimately, creating a manga and webtoon, serialization as a whole, this industry is all about the intersection of speed and quality, because you have to meet deadlines, and if you can't meet those deadlines, then your series is also likely not going to be successful either. It's a reason why illustrators really struggle in the manga webtoon space. It's because they're really focused on creating a really perfect panel, but if you can't create 50 to 100 of those perfect panels every single week, then it's gonna be really hard. That really brings me into our next piece of advice, which is really on productivity, right? I think we want to finish things, learning how to finish those things. In this world of many, many distractions, you really have to focus on productivity. And that's where our sponsor for today, Skillshare, really comes in handy, especially for me personally. As someone who struggles with productivity sometimes, with all these distractions in the world, all the different projects I'm doing, it's been really cool to take a course on productivity, and that's where Skillshare really comes in handy. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creators, with thousands of classes led by industry experts from across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and a lot more. I looked already, and there's classes for art, there's classes for drawing, there's classes for writing, there's even classes for social media marketing, which again is something that I'm going to be talking about later in this video. Again, that's not even just for the manga webtoon industry, it's just like benefiting you as a person. You know, using Skillshare has been really useful, especially for me, who's someone who is constantly wanting to learn how to better myself and become a lot more efficient. So the first 500 people who are going to use my link in the description are going to get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare, and so you can get started today. I'm personally taking the Productivity Masterclass, Principles and Tools to Boost Your Productivity by Ali Abdaal. Like I said, I really want to boost my productivity this year, and I'm a big fan of Ali Abdaal, the YouTuber, so was like, I definitely got to check out this class, and yeah, it's been really helpful so far. So yeah, definitely check it out. Link in description. First 500 people people, free month of Skillshare. Great deal. Once again, thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So the next piece of advice is going to be really on speed. I think that speed is something that's really hard to get good at in the manga webtoon industry. It is something that is reoccurring as an issue in the industry because there's a lot of burnout. People really struggle to meet those kind of deadlines. And so I think that establishing deadlines for yourself is the first step to trying to increase your speed as a creator. You know, if you get a serialization deal, you have to be able to produce weekly or semi-weekly. And so setting deadlines and learning how to meet those deadlines is going to be really key. And again, that's why that productivity class or anything where you're really learning how to just lock in is going to be really essential if you want to make manga or webtoon or any serialized medium a big part of your career. The next piece of advice I really want to give you guys is on rejection. I think that rejection is, again, not just a manga or webtoon thing, it's a life thing. But I think for the manga and webtoon industry, you're going to be rejected a ton. For me personally, manga and webtoon, or manga in general, was not popular when I was growing up. So I actually had every single comic book publisher in the United States telling me that I was a little bit crazy for wanting to create manga type projects when I was younger. And again, this was before COVID. So after COVID, manga, anime, and webtoon style projects started to go explosive to the moon. And as a result, now I'm able to do this career. But I was doing this for over a decade before it became super popular in the US. And so I was getting rejected and I obviously did not give up. And that is why I am where I am now. But I think that even in today's climate where these mediums are so popular, you're still going to get rejected. I still get rejected. I go to my current publisher, I pitch a new story. Sometimes I get rejected. I go to new publishers. They sometimes tell me to go F myself. Like, it is still a thing, even if you're established, whether or not you're established, but there is always going to be rejection. So I think that really establishing a thick skin, understanding why publishers reject you and whether to take that personally or not is super important. A good example for when to take it personally is someone tells you that your series is not a good market fit. And let's say it's not a good market fit. If it's not a good market fit, think about like, how can you tailor the concept to fit the market? And if that's not something that you're willing to do, then maybe you should create a new concept that will fit the market. Because again, your goal as a writer producer or a creator producer is to get things made. And if you're pitching something that really never had legs to stand up on, then you're really fighting an uphill battle, in my opinion. So, but on the flip side, sometimes publishers will tell you that information and you have to believe in yourself. Like, you have to believe that, hey, I am a market fit. In that case, screw what that publisher says, take it to someone else, and someone else maybe will take a bet on you. At the end of the day, it's all up to you. I think that you really have to be able to take rejection well, take feedback well, know when to take that feedback and internalize it, and know when to block out stuff that's just noise, right? And really not let it go straight to your heart. You know, I think that when I was younger, I was 17, someone gave me my first bad review on a novel that I wrote. I was so sad. An entire day, I was like totally depressed. A day went by, I took a nap, and then I was like, you know, whatever, I'm gonna keep writing. But let's say I gave up then and there. Some people feel that way, where it's like you get a bad piece of feedback and you just want to stop. You know, I think that you really have to thicken your skin if you want to be sharing your story and your mind and your art with the world. You have to be able to take constructive criticism or bad criticism or good criticism and take rejection and roll with it. I think that's especially important. Those two pieces of advice, rejection and learning how to finish things. If you can do those two things, by the way, you are ahead of most creators in the world who just always talk about wanting to do something, but then they never do that thing. I promise you, you finish that, you resolve those two things about yourself, which again is a soft skill, you will be ahead of most creatives. Now, the last piece of advice is going to be, again, something more modern, and it's something that I always preach, and it's about building your audience as a creative. I think that most creatives, besides like content creators, a lot of like artists and writers really hate the idea of social media. They hate the idea of the internet. But the manga and webtoon space in particular is completely dominated by the online medium right now. And so if you think about like what it takes to be successful, manga again used to be like very optimized for print. We used to get things off shelves, and I mean, still people do, but for the most part, most things are distributed digitally. If I'm being honest, the new realm and world is moving towards digital, and webtoon is actually entirely distributed digitally. That's where it's optimized. And knowing how big social media is and knowing how big just the digital world is, how can you not as a creative want to build and establish your presence online in order to gain a readership or power, and instead of relying on a publisher to market your work? Let's say you have a publisher, right? Let's say you have a publisher, and let's say you don't have a following at all, or you don't post your work online and no one knows who you are. In that case, the publisher has an enormous leverage over you. They could totally do whatever they want to you because you have nothing. You have no ability to market your work without them. But then let's say you're like Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is a popular author, a huge presence online, and just a huge like backing in terms of like people who are cult fans of his. He has so much power that he could run a Kickstarter and fund a multi-million-dollar project without a publisher's involvement. And that level of power means that he has all the leverage, and all the publishers want a piece of him. They want a piece of him. And so what I'm saying basically is, the more people know who you are and the more marketable you are as a creator, the more power that you have and the more that these publishers are going to want to work with you. And again, that's like a really annoying thing to say, but it's kind of factual. And so my advice is for you as a creator, and whether or not you show your face online and talk, you know, you don't have to do that, but like, share your art with the world. I think like you can just post images about your manga and just like, that's better than not doing anything at all and just hoping that people find your work on Canvas. You have to be marketing it. You have to be posting about it online. You have to be talking about it. It's just a whole new world where it's not enough to just rely on a publisher. Let's say you work with a publisher. It's also like not great if a publisher doesn't market you, because then you're completely reliant on them. You want to be able to market your own work. I can't say it more passionately enough. This channel, a lot of it is to market my work. You know, obviously I love helping you guys and I love talking and I love answering your questions, but a lot of it, and at the end of the day, is because I'm marketing myself and my work and my brand, right? Like that's my thing. That's why I do what I do. And I think that we shouldn't sugarcoat it. It's not enough just to be talented anymore. That's reality. So in life, I really think that the most talented people are not the ones who get the most opportunities. It's actually the people who are super talented, but also put themselves out there that get the best opportunities. Anyway, that is all the advice that I am going to give you guys for today. I really think that honestly, if you can manage your ability to feel rejection, manage your ability to finish projects, whether that's, you know, taking a productivity class with Skillshare or learning how to meet your deadlines, that's super important. And also learning how to balance your knowledge of writing and art, as well as learn how to market your own work, market yourself online. Dude, you're going to be ahead of so many people. I swear. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe. And once again, thank you for Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. You guys can join Skillshare and check out some of their classes by clicking my link in the description. And yeah, if you have any questions about the manga, webtoon, anime industry, let me know in the comments and I'll catch you guys on next week's video. Peace. Boop.